Hello, everyone. Welcome to PilupuTV. So today we are diving into some of the most important legal topics that affect families here in US. For example, what to do in the high stress situations like a DUI arrest. So to help it break it all into a simple and practical way, we've been joined by the team of Somireddy Law Group. So we have Mr. Jibran Muhammad joining us, who specializes in guiding people through complex legal situations with clarity and confidence. So thank you so much, Mr. Jibran, for joining us today. How are you doing? And please let us know some things about the Somireddy Law Group.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm glad to be part of this. So we at Somireddy Law Group, we're a full service law firm, as you know. We do immigration, we do family law, we do criminal, we do all sorts of litigations as well. So in terms of family law and criminal law, I handle most of those cases. So I'm happy to answer any questions related to that. And please feel free to let me know how I can help your viewers and answer their questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for joining us today once again. So let's start with something that we've been hearing a lot these days, especially with the immigrant families and the students. So I'm talking about the most stressful moment, the DUI arrest. So a lot of people panic when they get a call from their friend or a family member saying that they've been arrested because of the DUI. So, what is the first thing that someone must do under these situations?
Yeah, so absolutely. Getting a call from a friend, and they're informing you that they're arrested for one reason or another, whether it's DUI or some other related matter. It is important to remain calm. Um, Understand that any conversation that you're having, it's being recorded. So
Hmm.
unless the phone call is between an attorney and client, that conversation is being recorded. And if your friend makes an admission in that phone call, it could be used against them in the court when they go to trial in the future. So try not to ask too many questions. If you get a call from a friend who's incarcerated or who is in jail, just ask the important question, which jurisdiction you're in, which jail, ask them briefly why you're arrested. And then the best thing you can do is contact an attorney who can help in terms of filing a bond motion or try to get them bail. Important not to ask details as far as what happened, why did this happen. Just remain calm, ask information as far as which jurisdiction they are in, which jail, get the address, get their date of birth, get their full name. So that way you can provide that information to an attorney who can then do the additional work that needs to be done.
Okay, yeah, that's I mean, it's an interesting point because most of the commoners would not know that
Yes.
these calls are recorded.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Any phone calls that you're having, whether, it's the first call that you receive from someone who's in jail, to any additional calls, they're all recorded. And a lot of times that recording is being listened by a prosecutor or by the investigator to find out whether they make any sort of admission or whether they give information or anything. And that could be used against them in the court. So it's better not to ask too many questions. Just the main thing right now, your goal is to get the detailed information, as location, everything, and then you can contact an attorney who can then help out and file a bond motion and do whatever is necessary.
Got it. So once we get their information, let's say, so what we will reach out to the attorney. So how does it work from there on? Like, will they get bailed? Is it like, is it point based? How
Yeah.
does that work?
So every state operates differently, right? So I can tell you about Virginia, where I'm licensed. In Virginia, there are two ways bail can be determined. One, it can be determined by a magistrate who is usually in the same facility as where the person is being held at. The officer would take the person in front of a magistrate, and magistrate would decide whether this person has any sort of criminal record, whether this person, the violation was, if it's a DUI, whether there were any accidents or injuries to the other driver. If it's not severe, and they decide whether the person is a flight risk, meaning is this person going to show up in court? Is this person gonna flee? Whether this person is a national of another country, whether they're gonna leave the country. All those things they will decide in order to determine whether the person should be given a bond or not. So if the magistrate makes a decision based on those key elements, if they decide yes, that person is not a flight risk and is not a danger to the society or danger to themselves, then the magistrate would grant them a bail, and they will be given a court date to come for a hearing. But if the magistrate decides not to give them a bail, then an attorney can file a bail bond motion, which would be the next day or day after, and it would be a hearing in front of a judge. And then judge would also look at these key elements. Is this person danger to themselves? Are they suicidal? Is this person danger to the society? Are they going to commit any further crimes, or they're going to harm somebody? Is this person a flight risk? Whether they're going to come back to the court hearing, whether they're going to leave. So based on all those things, they would decide whether to give someone bond or not, or to keep them in jail until their case hearing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And the next question I have is because lot these days we are hearing about people who are here for their studies on F1 visas being arrested for DUI. And in a lot of groups, like on the Facebook groups, what I see is their friends posting, "Hey, I'm on visa, like a student visa, and I got this call from my friend. If I bail him out, is it going to affect my immigration status in any way?" So what is your take on that?
So not necessarily. If let's say, for example, you're here on F1 visa or any sort of non-immigrant visa, or whether even if you're a green card holder, just because you're helping someone in bond, or it's not necessarily that you will be liable. Now, understand, there are two things. One, you're assisting someone in obtaining an attorney, or you're communicating between the person who's in jail and communicating with the attorney. You're not causing any sort of problems. You're not doing anything wrong. There's no issue in terms of you. Anything is going to happen to you. Now, there is a second thing, which is if you're signing as a guarantor. If you're signing as a guarantor and you're putting any of your assets as on the bond paper, then yes, then you'll be responsible. If the person doesn't show up to court, then they can come after your assets, or come after your, for example, you put a down payment, 5,000, whatever. Let's say the bail was $10,000 and you had to pay 10% down payment. If you're signing as a guarantor and the person doesn't show up to court, then you will lose that $2,000, which is the 10%.
Oh, okay, got it. So unless you're 100% sure that this person is, your friend is going to show up, it's better to stay out of those, signing up.
Yeah, I would recommend before signing any papers or anything, just reach out to an attorney, just get some legal advice, make sure that whatever you're signing is you understand fully. Because a lot of times, you want to help out, but you don't really understand what responsibilities you're taking over.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, whatever insight that you have given today definitely would help people understand, the depth involved, whether it comes to talking to the person who committed the DUI, asking them for the details, what are the next
Yeah.
steps and all. Your insight today would definitely help them. So, two more questions before we wrap up this topic.
Sure.
So, here in Virginia, can a DUI case be reduced or dismissed?
Yes, absolutely. So, um, main thing for anyone who gets pulled over, whether it's for DUI, for speeding, for any sort of thing, if you are stopped by an officer, you have to understand you have, regardless of whether your immigration status, okay, regardless of your immigration status, whether you're a US citizen, you're a green card holder, you're here on student visa, whatever the case might be, you have constitutional rights. And one of those rights is to right to remain silent. Okay. The more information you give out, sometimes the more trouble you're going to get into. If the officer comes to you and asks you for your driver's license and your any ID or insurance paper or anything, all you do is you can hand it over to them. You can ask them, officer, why am I being pulled over? You can ask them why he's pulling you over. So they will have to answer that. If they answer, we're pulling you over because your tail light is not working, or you were speeding or whatever. At least you have that established. You give them the paper, and then if they ask you, do you know how fast you were going? You don't have to answer. No, nothing. If they ask you, did you drink? Did you have any alcohol? You don't have to answer. You have the right to remain silent. Okay, that's something that people do not understand. Where are you coming from? Officer, I've given you my driver's license. I've given you whatever you've asked for. I'm not going to answer any other questions. That's it. They cannot force you. Okay. Sometimes people give too much information. They ask them, did you have anything to drink? Yeah, I had 2 drinks an hour ago. Now you're giving them a lot more information that you don't really have to volunteer. So you have constitutional right to remain
Oh, yeah.
silent. And then any other information that they ask you, you can be polite. It's good to be polite and cooperative, but also understand your constitutional rights. So that way you are not giving too much information, which will be used against you. Because whenever they arrest you, they give you a Miranda right.
Could be used against.
Yes, yes. They give you a Miranda right. The reason they give you Miranda right is not because they like giving you Miranda right. They have to give it to you. It's required by Constitution. It says you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to hire an attorney. If you cannot hire one, one will be provided to you for free. The reason they're saying all this to you because you have certain constitutional rights. So use those rights for yourself.
Great. That is such a great information to have. What you just shared. I think a lot of people would not know that they have this right to remain silent, because in that spur of the moment, you would not even realize the information that you're giving away, and that could definitely be used against you, and it might get difficult for, let's say, getting a bail or, getting out of that particular situation, right?
Right, right, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is for the person who had committed a DUI, but what is the best way to support a friend uh, who is in the situation without making things worse? I know that you've said do not ask too many questions, get them a lawyer and all of that, but is that the only way that we could be able to, the best way to is to just get them an advocate and let the advocate take the lead from
Yeah.
there on?
Obviously, you want to, if to prevent any of those issues, if you are with a friend who has been drinking, try to make sure they don't drive. Call them an Uber and all that. So help them out before a problem it's there. But if the problem is already there and it's too late, obviously all you can do is try to support them, try to guide them, try to provide information of an attorney who can play a role into it. As I said before, if they're on a phone call with you, don't ask too many questions. And then, just assist them in terms of, if they are having more issues, then a capable attorney in the role to provide them guidance from the beginning would be helpful to them in the long term. So they can help them in terms of negotiation. So that, your question before, can the charges be amended to, or can they be dismissed? Yes, of course they can be dismissed. They can, because look, it is the government's responsibility to prove any case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
Meaning there's no doubt that this person is guilty. And a lot of time it is hard to do because, sometimes the evidence is not there. Sometimes, the officer may not have done all the things that they were supposed to do. So sometimes by going to trial, the government is not able to prove that they have met all the elements of the case. And especially in a DUI case, officers have to do what's called a field sobriety test. They have to make you walk. They have to give you a breath test, and you also have right to refuse all of it. You're not. So let's say, for example, you get pulled over for drinking and driving. First, the officer has to have probable cause, meaning it is more likely than not that you have been doing something that they suspect you of doing. Okay. So they suspect you of drinking and driving, right? So they have to have some reason. Let's say, for example, you were not driving in a straight lane, you were weaving in and out, or you were, when they pulled you over, they can smell alcohol. As soon as you roll down your window, they smell alcohol. And plus your eyes are red. Now they have probable cause that you've been drinking and driving. So they'll ask you to come out of the car.
Right.
They'll ask you to do some tests. Now, those tests are all volunteer. You don't have to do it. There's no requirement that you have to do it. They're all voluntary. So if you say, I don't want to do them, that's fine. They cannot force you. And it cannot be used against you that you didn't do them. All right. They ask you, did you drink? You don't make any statements. It's not going to come in. So there's no evidence that you made any admission. Now they'll ask you to do a breath test. You can also refuse that if you don't want to. Okay. If they ask you to do a preliminary breath test on the road, you can refuse it. So now that's not there for evidentiary purposes. Now they may arrest you because they still suspect that you've been drinking, and they take you to the jail. Once they take you to the jail, they ask you to do another breath test. Now that one is required, but if you refuse it, it's only a civil penalty. It's not a criminal penalty. Okay. When they ask you to do the test in the jail, if you refuse it, you get a civil penalty. So now they don't have evidence for that purpose also. So I have seen cases where someone who doesn't do any of those things, they refuse field sobriety tests, they refuse the preliminary breath test, they refuse to answer any questions. They're not impolite, or they just because they have constitutional rights not to do anything that they're not required to do. And then when they have a trial, they don't have all the elements to prove this person is guilty. So the case get dismissed. And also when prosecutors or when the government doesn't have all those evidence, it's easy to get a good plea deal, and that the charges would be amended to something much lesser than the DUI.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one last question before we wrap up. So usually here in the DMV area, we go to other states, like say Maryland is not too far away from Northern Virginia region, and also to D. So does this state law for DUI differ by each state? Can people still reach out to Somireddy Law Group even though the crime is committed, like let's say in Maryland or in DC
Sure.
or any neighborhood states?
Yeah, absolutely. So Santosh is licensed in 14 different states, and Virginia is one of them. I'm licensed in Virginia. We have attorneys who are licensed in New Jersey, Texas, and Maryland, and DC. So we can assist you with all those states that we are licensed in. even if it is a case that we are not licensed in, we can at least guide you, provide you a general guidance, and we can also find you a local counsel who can guide you. So for any purpose you want to reach out to us with regards to whether it's family law, criminal law, we will try to guide you as much as we can. And if we cannot help you directly, then our role will be to find you a local counsel that we have worked with before, that we trust.
Wonderful. That's really good to know. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Jibran, for
You're most
joining
welcome.
us today. So audience, you heard it all, like, the do's and don'ts that you need to do when you're in those stressful situations. Somireddy Law Group, thank you so much for breaking it clear and in a practical way. So if someone is dealing with any of these situations, the best way to go about it is to get a legal advice as early as possible for it to make all the difference. So thank you so much once again, Mr.
You're
Jibran.
welcome.
We'll see you next time.
Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.